years ago, I found myself in the emergency room. I thought that I was absolutely about to have a heart attack.
I was like opening doors for interviews because now Amy was like one of the first magazines to be running in the country when we started. We can journey through this together because no one arrives. We just come to a place of mastery, and then there's always something else in our life that we're working on.
So Queen, you have the power. You have the power to decide that you want to live a different life. Welcome to Empowering Queens TV. This is our very first episode, and we are so excited to be here with you. The purpose of Empowering Queens TV is to help women become stronger and more confident. I mean, the reality is we face situations every single day, and these situations cause us to think internally, and when we think internally, our thoughts drive our actions. My name is Dukwesity Dean, and I am your host. My co-host today is the limitless life coach, Simone Albo, and I'm so happy to have her join me in studio co-hosting this episode. Simone, would you please tell our listening audience a bit more about you?
Thank you so much, DeQuesta. It's really good to be here for this first episode. I'm really honored. And just to let you know what I do as the Limitless Life Coach, I help people to break free of limiting beliefs and an average life so that they can move forward toward the things that they really want to pursue, whether that is business, whether that is work, whether that's relationships, but living that abundant, limitless life that they've always dreamed about.
And doesn't that really just tie right into the purpose of Empowering Queen TV? Because our job through this TV program is to help women become more confident and to live an abundant life. So I'll tell you a quick little story. A couple of years ago, I found myself in the emergency room. I thought that I was absolutely about to have a heart attack. You could not tell me that my heart was not about to burst in my chest, and I sped to the emergency room because I thought that I was on my way out. When I got to the emergency room, and after seeing many doctors and spending a ton of money, I actually got the diagnosis that it was a panic attack. Can you imagine that? A panic attack. And as a woman balancing so many things in such a busy world, it's easy to allow our feelings and emotions to take a backseat to what's really going on inside of our lives. And that prompted me to look at the cause of panic attacks. And many women experience anxiety. Have you ever heard of the word anxiety?
Absolutely. And that's something that you feel on a regular basis. I mean, and it's degrees and levels of it, right? So you can have a little bit of anxiety if, say, you're making something new or you're making something on that first date or you want to impress someone. And so you have a little bit of that uneasy feeling, like I'm just a little bit on edge. I feel it a lot when I perform, whether I'm speaking or singing. And you feel that a little bit on edge, like how is this going to go? Do I really remember everything? Am I going to execute this? Am I going to be well received? And then you have deeper levels of anxiety where it actually affects you very seriously physically, like how you experienced, or the racing heartbeat, sweating, nausea, those types of things. So I remember my experiences with it. I was going through a very rough time personally. And I used to have this feeling of being trapped. And so I always wanted to be like at the end of a row. If I was seated somewhere, I needed to be at the end where I knew I could make an exit, and I needed to be in the path of the door. And I would have those feelings of the racing heart, and then I would feel nauseated as well.
Wow. And so many women face anxiety. Anxiety comes up as a result of the unknown. And to be very honest with you, it took me a long time to be able to handle living in shades of gray, because back in the day, things had to be black or white. There had to be an answer one way or another. And managing in shades of gray is not often easy because the unknown is unknown. We don't know what's happening there. And so, because we don't know what's happening there, we allow our minds to race, and that causes anxiety. Anxiety is described as a feeling of worry, nervousness, or unease about something with an uncertain outcome. And being in a situation that you're not certain how things will go positive or negative really causes you to either have fear, anxiety, and sometimes it takes you talking your way through a situation to settle into it. Now, the thing about it is, anxiety could be positive. There are often times when we get anxious about situations like you just explained. And when it's positive, it's about being eager to do something, having a desire to please other people, or yearning to see someone. And so we're anxious because we want to see our, maybe going on our first date, or we're going on our jobs for the first time, or we're anxious because we're singing in front of a crowd. And so there are times when anxiety really drives our actions positively because we want to do the best. And we see it all around us. But there are also times when anxiety can be negative. And when it's negative, it's worry, uneasiness, we're fearful, we're nervous, and all of those things cause stress. And stress is a trigger. And once that trigger goes off, panic happens. And so learning how to control anxiety is so very important because anxiety attacks can be crippling. Have you ever had an experience where you were just crippled by anxiety?
Absolutely. I mean, all of those experiences that I described for you were things that I felt. And so I was limited in those moments where I couldn't function or I had to actually leave the room because I just couldn't get myself to settle down, or I was having these feelings that I was just gonna embarrass myself or something was going to happen. And I know that those feelings weren't rooted in reality,
Yes.
but it was my reality at the time. And so it was crippling. I could not perform at my optimum because of all of these racing feelings. And a lot of times that anxiety was coming from a decision that I needed to make where I felt now divided against myself.
Okay.
Where I had to make a decision that I didn't want to make. I had to face things that I did not want to face. And so it was harder to face the truth, and so now you're anxious because you need to face the truth at some point.
Wow, that's really
Yeah.
powerful. Simone, as the limited life coach and as a woman who has worked with other women who have experienced challenges in their lives and helping to guide them through those challenges, what are some of the circumstances that you believe are commonplace that create anxiety and panic attacks? What sort of situations uh, cause those emotions to come up?
Yeah, very deep emotional trauma. So usually I find them to be in relationships. So where people are in romantic relationships, marriages, where they feel very unhappy. So whether there are cases of abuse that's going on, whether that's emotional abuse or physical abuse, and people feel that they're stuck in this situation and they can't move forward. They're thinking about, what next? Either I'm going to get hurt, or how am I going to survive financially? And my children may be involved, and all of those things that get us tied up in there. People are anxious about their future. I find people start to think about, I want more from my life. I want more than this life that I'm living now. And they start to get anxious because they start to think about, well, I'm not where I want to be. And I really can't see where I could get to this place where I want to be. And how am I going to get it to happen? And so, as women and as human beings, I find we tend to overthink, and when we overthink, we're not thinking about options. We're just thinking about where we are, and we keep spinning. And we
Okay.
keep spinning right there. So I think people get anxious about relationships. They're anxious about their future. They're anxious about their finances and where they are with maybe debt or not being able to make ends meet.
Yeah.
People are very, very anxious about that. People tend to be anxious about what they do not have, and that's what I've found. So you have people who are single, who are anxious about being married, people who don't have a child who are anxious about that. And so, really, they get anxious about the unknown
Yes.
space that you talked
Yes.
about, those areas where I want something, I have those desires, but I can't see where I'm going to get those to come to pass.
And for those of you who know a little bit about my story, you would know that at the age of 30, I found myself in a position where I was contemplating suicide. And I sat on my bathroom floor with my tablets and my juice, really giving consideration to taking my own life because there was so much uncertainty and so much trauma had happened between 13 and 30 that I saw no hope. Is it often, though, that women find themselves feeling hopeless and considering suicide as a way out of anxiety?
Absolutely. I
Yes.
think that even more so now, there seems to be um, an increase in depression and loneliness, and with those emotions come isolation, and they're all dangerous combinations. And people feel like suicide is my way out. Like, as I mentioned before, if you can't think about options, then that is the viable option, that I just need out. And what's hurtful about it is not only do they consider suicide for themselves, some women have considered suicide for them and their children, because they feel, if I'm not in the world, who's going to take care of my children? So all of us should die. And that's a very, very dangerous place to be, when people feel that there's no hope, that there's nowhere to turn, that no one understands them, that no one can relate, you know, and those are not the truth. There's always someone who will understand. There's always help. There's always support. And so I really want to encourage people to don't let pride stop you from reaching out for help. And I know sometimes that people feel like, I've reached out to family and they don't understand me, or they let me down. The people that I expect to be in my corner are not there for me. It may not be family and it may not be the people that you've expected, but there is someone out there that cares enough to give you the support and the help that you need to get through this hurdle. One of the things that I focus on with the limitless life, it's all about being limitless. And so there are always possibilities, there are always options. And so, what I enjoy most about helping people through that and coaching them through that is throwing different questions at them and getting them to see their life and their situation differently than they already do. And usually they get this aha moment like, wow, I didn't think about that. Oh, wow, I didn't consider that. There are always options. Our life is filled with possibilities.
Yes, and it's just so important to get out of our own heads
Mm-hmm.
because we're feeding ourselves all of the limits that we are
Correct.
encountering. We're telling ourselves all of the reasons why we are in the state that we're in. And getting help is an important component of getting out of our heads because now we have someone who can help to guide us into a different space and a space that shows us possibilities. And it's really what we hope to do with this television show is to empower women and help them feel a whole lot more comfortable about controlling their lives and claiming what is rightfully theirs. We work hard as women because we want a certain measure of success, and men do as well. Our focus is on women, but we do know that men do the same. And as women, we put an enormous amount of pressure on us to look a certain way, to talk a certain way, to have certain jobs, to run in certain social circles, and that pressure also leads to anxiety when we don't get the type of results that we want. Perhaps we're not getting into the type of networking organizations that we want to. We don't have the funds necessary to get into some of the establishments that we want to get into that has the crowd that we want to run with. And so we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, which again internalizes, causes anxiety, which leads to panic attacks. And if you're anything like me, it feels like a heart attack. What I want you to know, though, is that you're not alone. And it's important to realize that you're really not alone. There are a lot of women in the world that experience anxiety. And I'm not saying that from the perspective of getting comfortable with it. I'm sharing that because I want you to know that women have dealt with it and come through quite successfully. I'd just like to talk for a few minutes about how coming from the brink of depression and anxiety can actually turn into quite a purposeful life. How did you turn your life around?
Well, it was actually through my pain. that created a platform for me. And it was through my own self discovery and my own transformation and my own quest to understand myself and to understand the things that I was going through that drove me toward this path of personal development and transformation for others. And so it helped me to look at myself. It helped me to understand, why did you make these decisions? Why did you not make certain decisions? Why did you end up in certain situations? Why did you end up with certain people? Why do you think that way? Why did you act that way? Why did you not act? And in my own search to understand myself better, it pushed me to speak to people more, and just in sharing with people more. And at the time I was an educator, so I'm always talking with people, and then I start to recognize those things in other people. I can recognize when I'm in a class and people are struggling with self-esteem, and people are struggling with self-worth and value and self-perception, and I'm able to speak to that in them because I saw it in myself, and I can hear myself and I see myself in other people, and I want them to know that they don't have to stay there because I'm not staying there, and we can journey through this together because no one arrives. We just come to a place of mastery, and then there's always something else in our life that we're working on. And so we don't ever arrive. I don't ever want to be a person on a public platform that makes you believe that I'm perfect, because I'm not. There are things that I'm still working through, but it's possible. That's what I want you to know, that it's possible as you journey to greatness, that you can overcome the things that you think are the greatest hurdles in your life, but they can actually be the things that will build that muscle to get over, and also to get up on that platform where you have a voice, where you are now helping the people that need to hear your voice.
Wow. And Queen, if you're listening, that is such a powerful testimony. And it's also the reason why we have our stories, the reason why we go through some of the situations that we do, because our stories lead us to help other people. Our experiences equip us to be able to help others who are struggling with some of the things that we have struggled through, and to share how we have successfully navigated that path and came out successfully. And there's power in choice. We have the absolute right at any given time to make choices, to make decisions that are in our best interest, that will alleviate stress, that will eliminate anxiety when we begin to live successfully through our eyes, not measuring success against anyone else, or not measuring success against society's standards, because sometimes the society that we live in also places a heavy stress on us to be a certain way. So, Queen, you have the power. You have the power to decide that you want to live a different life. You have the power to reach out to experts that can help you. You have the power to put boundaries in place that for people who are trampling on you or causing you to feel like you're not valued and you're not worth it. You have the power to position yourself with people who are positive, who will encourage you and who will help you through your journey. Sometimes all it takes is just reaching out, and when you reach out, help automatically shows up. Because I can tell you, when I got up off of my bathroom floor 30 years ago, 2 days later, a gentleman approached me out of the blue, very unsolicited, and said, I would like to mentor you. And I was like, wow, this is amazing, because when the student is ready,
The teacher
teacher appears. So it takes being in a state of readiness so that your teacher could appear. Queens, thank you so much for tuning in. We'd love your comments. Let's make this show a dialogue, not just us talking at you, but we love your feedback and your takeaways from our very first episode. And please stay tuned, because more episodes will come in the future. I am Dukwasity Dean, your host, signing out. Thank you. We'll be right back.